Welcome. I am Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and I'm waiting in the background. I have the court feed up because we may get to cover this live. I My heart goes out to Athena's family. I wanted to share this with you all here. I will be going over the sentencing, no, the closing statements, rebuttal, all of those things that the title said, but I was available, and it looks like the jury might have reached a verdict. So, and not verdict, the sentencing decision. So we will see. Welcome. Yay, first live. Welcome, welcome. I don't always get to cover things live, and I was hopefully able to work out my Verizon Fios issue. So hopefully there won't be any issues. I got bored and straightened my hair. With this case, so this is the case of Athena Strand, and the defense put on a very strong defense. And the state also has a very strong case. I want us to mentally be prepared. Either going to be life in prison or the full charge, okay? Or the death penalty. Those are the options. Um, I I don't know what the family wants. I would guess the family would fight for the strongest sentence, and we have to remember nothing will ever bring Athena back. Does this mean we get the twisting video in the near future? Yeah, so probably Sunday. So I'll probably do a members only live where I twist my hair on Sunday. Yes. Um, we're all in court. We are waiting for this decision. I would not be surprised if, especially with a cousin coming forward, and I don't know if it was blood cousin, because it sounds like the cousin's uncle. I don't know, I was kind of trying to follow genealogy of the alleged family member that alleges that Tanner harmed him.
The court has received notification from the jury that they have reached a verdict. Both sides ready to receive the verdict?
Ready, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this courtroom is very full, and I do not know what this verdict is.
We do not know.
But remember, whatever the verdict is, we're in a courtroom, all right? And there will be no reactions to the verdict, all right? Let's go to work.
We're going to breathe. This is in the jury's hand. They came back fast. I think this was maybe 4 hours. I haven't been counting. This seems maybe 3 to. I thought they'd take at least a day, but I didn't see and hear the video. They saw and heard. So I would not be surprised if they did give him the maximum penalty. We'll see. And also what he said during the crime to a 7-year-old girl that he did, poor family. That's Athena's birth mother. The father has like a long beard. He's like,
Everyone may be seated. Good afternoon. Mr. Presiding Juror, it is my understanding jury has reached a verdict on both issues. Okay, you hand it please to Deputy King. Answers to special issues. Special issue number 1, whether there is a probability that the defendant would commit criminal acts of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society. Answer, we, the jury, unanimously find beyond a reasonable doubt that the answer to special issue number 1 is yes, signed by the presiding juror. Special issue number 2, whether taking into consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character and background, and the personal moral culpability of the defendant. There is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer: we, the jury, unanimously find that the answer to special issue number 2 is no, signed by the presiding juror. Does either side desire a poll?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Anderson, Mr. Goebel, is there any legal reason why sentence should not be pronounced?
No, Your Honor.
Let's go.
Mr. Horner, if you'd stand, please. It's the order of the court that you, Tanner Lynn Horner, has been adjudged to be guilty of the offense of capital murder as found by the jury. Jury having answered the special issues, making it mandatory that your punishment be death. It is therefore the order of this court that your punishment be death. Before the hour of sunrise on a date to be determined by this court, upon a mandate of affirmance issued by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals at the State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas, you will be caused to die in accordance with the rules and regulations established by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice until you, said Tanner Horner, are dead. Said execution procedure shall be determined and supervised by the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. The clerk of this court shall issue a death warrant in accordance with this sentence directed to the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for that purpose. Clerk shall deliver such warrant to the sheriff of this county and to be by him delivered to the Director of the Department of Criminal Justice together with you, and you will remand to the custody of the Tarrant County Jail to await transportation to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at Huntsville, Texas, and the execution of this sentence. I will sign this death sentence as required by law. Your appeal of the finding of this guilt by the jury and their determination of the answers to the question in this sentence are automatically appealed to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in Austin, Texas. You will be appointed a lawyer to represent you on direct appeal, and your lawyer will receive a copy of the record of this charge, of this case at no charge. You have the right to have a second lawyer to represent you on writs of habeas corpus. It's a separate matter from your direct appeal. Do you wish to have counsel appointed for your writ purposes?
Yes.
Okay, then I will appoint you writ lawyers for that. Ms. Anderson, Mr. Goebel, if you will remain on his case pending his decision, and we have all the appellate paperwork filled out, I have received his acknowledgement certification of the right to appeal, and I appreciate you doing that. You may be seated. Is there an allocution?
The state is talking with the family. That's Athena's father. Get the tissue ready.
He may speak. He may speak from wherever he feels the most comfortable.
I'm Elijah Strand. I'm Jacob's brother, Athena's uncle.
Sorry, Uncle.
There are no words that truly capture the devastation that Tanner Horner caused us and our family. What he took from this world was not just a child. He took a life, a future, and a piece of every single person who loved him. He took a granddaughter, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, and a friend. She would call me Uncle Elijah because she, for the longest time, couldn't say the Elijah part of my name. It was the best thing to see her running up to me with her arms open, yelling, Uncle Elijah. And that's one of my last memories I have of her. And now I get to never hear that again. I think it was more than a headline. laughter, curiosity, kindness, and innocence. And she had dreams that she will never get to chase, birthdays that she will never celebrate, and a life she'll never get to live because of his actions. Our family has been left with an emptiness that can never be filled. I have 3 daughters, 2 that got to meet her and grow with her, and 1 that will never meet. And he took that away from them as well, a cousin and a friend. He stole a sense of safety from all of us in our family. Me and my wife just got comfortable enough to let our kids play outside, and that's even in our backyard. It's not close to the road. He's robbed us of safety, peace, and our trust in the world, and forever changed who we are as a family. And we are left to carry grief that never fades. We are left with questions that will still never have answers. And we are left trying to honor a beautiful little girl whose life was taken in the most senseless and horrific way. Tanner Horner, I want you to hear this directly. You did not just take a life, you destroyed a family. You took a little girl who trusted the world and repaid that innocence with violence. You chose to cause pain that will last generations. You say you found God, but what you did to Athena stands in direct opposition to everything that you now claim to believe. In Matthew 18:6, it says, if anyone causes one of these little ones to stumble, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck than to be drowned. That is how seriously harm against a child is judged. And you will be judged. You will face the wrath of God. But I want you to know that you are nothing. You are a footnote in Athena's story. Her name will forever be remembered. Her name will forever be celebrated, and everyone will forget you. You wanted your 15 minutes of fame. You got it. No one's going to remember you after this.
This is my last video.
Mr. Stegman, any other allocutions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Who's your prisoner, Sheriff?
All right. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, this will
sorry, I'm
conclude your services juror. I bet in December, don't sit down,
Thank you, Judge.
in December, that you got open that mailbox and saw a jury summons and you never thought you'd be involved in this, okay? Well, here we are 6 months later, and I thank you. And also in your presence, I want to thank the lawyers. Lawyers in real life don't behave like they do on television, okay? Mr. Staten, Mr. Berry, Ms. Dool, Mr. Lapham, all the members of the staff, they represent citizens of Wise and Jack County. And I hope that those citizens have had a chance to watch their work because I appreciate it. Sanderson and Mr. Goble are members of the Regional Public Defender's Office out of Lubbock. That is a government corporation that provides representation to people who are accused of capital murder where the state is seeking the death penalty in counties that have 100,000 in population or less. And that is 195 counties in the state. And all these lawyers do is death penalty cases. So think about that. What they had done in this case, they had to do it in 194 other counties. The professionalism that they demonstrated to each other, the courtesy that they demonstrated to each other makes me a better judge. And I thank you.
Oh.
I thank the sheriff and his staff, the bailiffs. And the rock in this room is the lady that's sitting right here in front of me. If y'all will retire to your jury room, I'll be back with some final instructions. Okay, thank you very much. All right.
You rarely see a judge getting choked up, even the judge.
We are adjourned. Let me see counsel.
All right. And there is another innocent child in this, Tanner's son. And the mother might, I don't know what the mother will decide. There are people that turn their pain into purpose. And that's where getting healing, getting help, going to therapy, addressing your past pain becomes incredibly important. It was nauseating. It was exhausting sitting through all of the mitigating evidence that was submitted. Now, because this was a death penalty case, they had to do all of that work. His legal team, Tanner's legal team, they covered all their bases. They got brain scans, they did MRI, they did the what was it? The toxic lead exposure test. They got a developmental psychologist, they got an autism specialist, forensic psychiatrist, forensic psychologist. His team did everything. And even with all of that potential mitigating evidence, what he did in that crime, and for the defense experts to say this one incident does not meet criteria for the DSM for a P-file disorder. But I don't know if that person was aware of the prior allegations of potential, because the state mentioned it during their closing. And I did not watch every moment of this trial. This trial has been exhausting. I came in, so I watched the teacher's testimony day one, and I think I watched opening statements for the defense and the state, and but I did not get into I did not watch the DNA expert. I did not some of those things because it is just so heavy. I do think a lot of the jurors, they may access the free therapy that's offered. And thank you to the psych nerd that in the comments mentioned that they were a juror for a essay case in Dallas, Texas, and the jury was offered the opportunity for therapy after the case. And so thank you to the person that put that in the comments. Justice for Athena. And I love how Athena's uncle said, she will be remembered. Tanner will not. Athena's the one. She's the bright light. She's the one that should still be here. And her birthday is coming up. I think the state might have said 18 days, but her birthday, she would have been, I believe the state said 11 years old. And her little light should still be shining bright. The individual that was out delivering her packages should have never done the things he did. And I don't think the jury bought that he was using nose powder. So this is YouTube. I can't say certain things that I don't think the jury bought that he did something, and that was the thing that triggered what he did. Uh, I agree with the state. It seemed like there was some predatory behavior, like he was seeking this out and he was looking for an opportunity. And when his cousin, so we did not get to the rebuttal case. So the state had a rebuttal case after the defense put on their last psychologist. So there was a pediatric psychologist that also met with him. This individual did not provide a report. I was like, oh, I've never heard of, like, so an expert that actually met with the defendant. I've never heard of them not providing a report. Like that's just me. I've always heard experts, normally they write their findings down because that allows the state and the defense to both, and even the jury, because their report goes back with the jury. This person relied on the other experts, their reports, to help formulate their opinion, and they did a fine job. They were very knowledgeable about child development and all those things, but it just sounded more like blah blah blah. Oh my gosh. W- For the people, the description of what happened in the video, none of that had to do with autism. And all of the defense experts said his behavior that day was not autism. Even the speech language pathologist that said she was expecting to see him to be dysregulated, she was expecting to see something different, and she didn't see that. That points to something else, something a lot more, in my opinion, my personal thoughts. I'm not a psychologist. I'm sorry, I am a psychologist. I'm not his psychologist. I never met with him. So I can't speak to exactly what's happening with him, but it feels a lot like a sadistic, evil, it gets a little murky like that for me. And and so they, once again, all the defense experts tried to minimize the zero and call him ineffective storytelling, and that he wasn't trying to be manipulative, that he just couldn't admit that he did it. And that's why he invented zero, and not him just trying to get out of the crime. And he was trying to get home to his son for Christmas. Like, I don't know. Like, there were a lot of words used, and that's why I don't do forensic evaluations, because that just, it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you have to have an opinion and get up and say something with a straight face, and I'm just like, and it was fine, because sure, it could, that have been a possibility? Yes. Do I personally think that's what was happening? I would not get up on the stand and say that. The last defense expert talked about Tanner living in a fantasy world where, uh, and it was like he was blaming it on his imaginary friend. Okay. She admitted that he is not psychotic, and everybody denied. So even the state expert agreed that he did not meet criteria for antisocial personality disorder. But there were some problematic traits. There was some like deviant behavior according to the state expert, and I will get to that in a little bit. And and then also the defense expert did not find that he had a criminal mind or a criminal attitude, and so that he didn't have antisocial traits. And so on cross-examination, um, they talked about all the different diagnoses and all the different people that met with Tanner, and that's when it came out that she didn't have a report, and I was just like, "What?" And that this expert did not talk with Tanner about what happened on the day of the offense, because she was there to provide mitigating evidence related to how he grew up and how those things might have impacted what happened, but not what happened the actual day of the offense. So then there's a rebuttal witness. And that is where the individual who was raised as Tanner's cousin came and he alleges that there was, so trigger warnings, and I'm not going to go into the details that he said, but he alleges that when Tanner was maybe 13 or 14 years old and he was 10 years old, because there's a 3-year age difference. And the defense tried to get it younger. The defense tried to say that maybe Tanner was 10 and so the witness might have been around 7, but so somewhere between that time frame, there were allegations where Tanner essayed his cousin. And then on another instance years later, that there was another, there was no touching, but it was the person pretended to be asleep, and like they did not see what was happening, but something problematic. We'll go there. I want to keep this as least triggering as possible, because it was very triggering indeed to hear it. And this individual came forward after he posted on Facebook that, and I wrote it down, but he made a post that, let me see, Tanner Horner essayed me and beat me up as a child. That was the post he made on Facebook, and the state reached out. He says that he had already talked to the defense, and I don't know if that's true. The defense really, because so it's not their job if they find evidence that supports the state. If they choose not to use it, I don't think they have to hand that over to the state. But this individual wanted to talk to the prosecution, and I think was maybe having difficulty getting in touch with them. He made that post, and the state found him. And about weeks before the trial, he gave a deposition, and he gave a statement outside of the presence of the jury. And then he did testify in front of the jury. And he did have his own criminal history, but nothing involving a child. And I think the state brought that up just so the defense wouldn't have something in their pocket to kind of bring up. And on cross-examination, the cousin said that he saw Tanner's mom chase the uncle with a knife. And I think that's how, yeah, because I think this individual blood related to Tanner's half brother. Like that's how all of this fits together. So then the state's expert. So outside of the presence of the jury, this expert talks about if there have been any changes in his opinion because he's heard more information. And he did agree that Tanner met criteria for, possible PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks. He wasn't arguing with the autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. He doesn't diagnose that himself. And but he did acknowledge that it was diagnosed in childhood. He also said that there were some borderline and narcissistic personality traits. And where he was going with that is that Tanner had a history of threats to himself after people broke up with him. So there seemed to be this fear of rejection, abandonment, things like that. I don't think any of those things, maybe the narcissism, but sometimes I want to be careful because sometimes on the spectrum, it can come so that's where, because you have to be careful with personality when you're talking about somebody on the autism spectrum. Now, if we're talking about clear, and in Tanner's case, with what happened and with all that we know about him, yes, maybe he did put his needs, what he wanted, above everything else. In a way, went beyond a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Because I would hate for some of these social deficits to be pathologized. And so that's where I focus on trauma and attachment. And if somebody suspects potential autism, I normally refer to somebody else, because all these diagnoses in the DSM-5, things can get really murky as you're talking about how things fit in together. Now, I think this incident, clearly Tanner was not thinking about anybody else, but in a way that truly did go beyond autism. Because I hate when crimes try to get linked to mental health, because some things are just evil, and there doesn't have to be a diagnosis. There doesn't have to be any of that goes along with it. Some things are just, so that's why I like talking about these things and breaking it down for you all. Try to figure out what's what. Um, and um, and so oh, it was it was tough. Uh, the defense did not want the terms sexually deviant or psychopathy mentioned. So psychopathy is antisocial person, that's like psychopath, because when you mention those types of words, research has shown that juries more frequently will diagnose juries, if terms like that are used, like they're a psychopath, they're sexually deviant, that juries will often give the harshest penalty. But the judge allowed all of their foolish, I hate to say fool, but like the judge allowed all of their opinions. And the the defense was able to ask their experts, do you think he meets criteria for paraphilic disorders? Do you think he has traits of antisocial? So the state was able to ask those things. So for the defense, I get state and defense. The defense was able to ask their experts along those terms, but the defense wanted to limit the state's ability to ask on those same things, or for the expert to give an opinion using that terminology. Decisions like that can bring up appellate issues. I'm not a lawyer, but I watch a lot of these things. But the judge allowed it. The judge was like, nope, overruled. The state can ask those questions. And so in front of the jury, the expert talked about that Tanner was cooperative, but as the evaluation went on and he was provided with breaks, he became more and more worked up and wasn't as cooperative. This expert also threw in the alleged abuse of Tanner's younger brother. Remember, I did not watch every second of this trial. I hadn't heard that come up. Now there were times I probably had to tune out sometimes. Like this was, I think this was 5 weeks. This was so long. This was very, very long. This was a lot. But this expert pulled all of that together. And I really think the state could have had multiple experts come up and do rebuttal, but they just called this one guy and the cousin. Those were the two people that they called before they rested. Um and do do do. So those were the things that came up from that. Any questions? So any questions about the rebuttal case or anything else? If I was on the jury, I likely would have came to the same thing. Welcome to anybody that's joining. I went live a little early because we did watch it live together. So Tanner really didn't have a response. With death penalty cases, they automatically go to appeals. And it sounds like there are two different things that are able to be appealed, and he'll have attorneys to be able to go for both. And so with closing arguments, the state did a phenomenal job. And there were two issues that the jury had to decide. Issue number one was Tanner a continual threat? And it did not have to be, but so that was question number one. Was he going to continue to be a threat? And if they said yes to that, then they would go on to special issue number two, were there mitigating circumstances to warrant life in prison? And at least 10 of them had to say yes to avoid the harshest penalty. And they were unanimous. So, okay. The state's closing, they start with a picture of Athena. And um, the prosecutor mentions looking at this picture every day as a reminder of what was. And that picture was taken 4 days before she died. And those were the words I want to say he used. And the state went on to say no mercy was shown to her. And this is why Texas keeps the DP. Tanner is proof why parents hug their children a little tighter, why children are nervous to play outside, proof why there is evil in society and we can never turn our back. Her birthday is coming in a few weeks. And the state went on to talk about what would have been or could have been for Athena, and talked about, the year she would have graduated and all the things that she could have had. And so then the state goes back and talks about that the trial, at the beginning of the trial, he said that they were going to put them as close as you can be to actually being there. And I think the video, I think the reason why the jury came back so fast was because I'm thankful, and I will never watch the video. If for some reason somebody had it and you could watch the video, and I recommend, I recommend avoiding it, okay? There are some things that you just can't unsee. And the jury, they had a purpose to watch it. They were there. They had to determine. They were picked, not had to, but they agreed to see graphic things, to hear graphic things that were going to be a part of this case. But just lay people sitting back watching it, there is something called secondary trauma. And when you're watching something that horrific, that truly happened, like, it's not like this is a movie or anything like that. I personally, so I have to be careful. My husband is watching Invasion. It's a very, very suspenseful show. I think it's on Apple TV. I don't know what it's on, but it's a very suspenseful show. I can only take that show for about like an hour. Like I can't watch it for too long because just like my body starts reacting and I have to go upstairs. Like I can't watch it for too long. I go back to my romantic comedies, or I go back and I watch something else. So sometimes you truly have to protect what you see, how much you watch, take breaks. And I hope that people take that to heart, because as a licensed psychologist, there are things that so when I have a role, so I can hear anything from a client. If I was working with a juror that had to tell me everything they saw, I could leave that at work. But in my free time at home, me just deciding to watch it, that is totally different. And that's a lot harder for people to contain. And so I don't. I stay away from things like that. You have to take care of you. You have to. Um and there is a way to work through it. So that jury was able to try to give Tanner the benefit of the doubt. Like, if there was something that was mitigating, and like if the experts had said this was clearly because of his autism, and it wasn't, but like if the experts had said that, the jury might have come to a different decision. But the jury had a purpose and a role there, and there is something called resilience or post-traumatic growth. So even after witnessing something horrific, sometimes you can have this passion or this purpose, or because even just being able to see the family, the judge the judge was tearful at the end of this. Like, this trial likely had an impact on every person in that room. And so yeah, so I watched day one And then I came back for the penalty phase. So once the defense started, so I kept waiting for the defense experts to start. That's most of what I watched. And the things I know about what happened on the video is because the state said it, and like that's a lot. There's something about seeing and hearing something versus reading it or hearing it secondhand. I'm telling you, there's just something different about it. Yeah, somebody mentioned having to tap out during statements. I get it. This is a horrific case. I have an 8-year-old boy, and my son used to love to go out, and when he was younger, he grew out of that phase, but he used to love to wave to our sanitation workers, to our garbage people that come around and collect the trash, or sometimes he would wave to our mailman, our mail person, and um and when I so I will have to take a break from true crime if watching things ever changes, like, what I'm okay letting my child do. So I was able to watch this case, and let's go into that now. Let me share that case from Virginia of the recycling collector driver that saved the missing toddler, okay? So let me pull up that article. I saved it to my I shared it on my what's the word? Our community tab, and I truly, this case was starting to get to me a little bit, and I was like, I need to share this. So, that's the wrong one. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing the okay, good. I am sharing the right one. All right. So this Virginia recycling driver, a toddler was in the car with I think it keeps going back and forth. Am I sharing the right one? Do. Yeah, they have other things in between here. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right tab. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to share. I shared the wrong one. Here we go. That's for the next case. That's not for that one. Here we go. Yes. And so there was an Amber Alert. The allegation, because the mother has been arrested, the allegation is that the mother was driving impaired, and at some point a man got out of the car but she knew the guy, so the guy got out of the car with the toddler because she was driving erratically, because she was the one that was arrested and charged. And then there was an Amber Alert for this child. And the guy was just walking with the child. Nothing bad happened to the child. But this sanitation worker, recycling truck driver, he was just driving, and he noticed um, that the boy matched the description of the child that they were looking for. And so he said, as I'm turning the corner and hearing the alert, I see the guy walking with the baby. He didn't have a bag or anything, so it kind of caught my attention. Police said the Amber Alert was issued after a woman, Ashley Dagner, reported just after midnight that her child had been taken without permission by an acquaintance. And there's more to that story. He alleges more happened than that. I knew I needed to do something, he said. So this is the y'all know I'm bad with names. So the worker that ended up finding him, I didn't know what had happened, but I knew an Amber Alert described a missing child, and I had just seen that child. He parked his parked his truck near Tidewater Drive and Brambleton Avenue and began following the man. Though he considered intervening, Montgomery said he ultimately decided to call police after sensing the man might be in distress. When I looked at his face, it seemed like he was in another world. I said, let the authorities handle it. Exactly. That was a very good call. Police responded within minutes, converging in the area and locating the child safely. Authorities said the man was known to the child and was detained, but later released without charges. The child's mother is facing felony child endangerment and DV charges. And so, after following this case, I just needed a palate cleanser. Like, I needed something positive. I needed something like some good people. Um, and I like that the state mentioned that there are a lot of people. So the state said thousands of people with disabilities and diagnoses of autism. It's more than thousands. Uh, and so, and they're not out here doing things like this. They're functioning, like with different levels of ability, with different levels of supports. But Tanner made this choice, and the state wanted him to be held accountable. He did not show Athena any mercy. I did forget to mention that the state expert also mentioned that Tanner had like negative views about women, and went into like a bunch of different stuff. But um, uh, because like the language that he used to Athena was just, ugh, ugh. So, um, uh, the state said that this one incident in their mind that makes him a pedophile, even though the other experts didn't agree. Uh, and the level of violence that one person can inflict on a child. And then he went into details because there were details of this because I did not watch the entire case. He went into just the heartbreaking details. And the state prepared the jury for what the defense was going to say. He's like, the defense is going to say his brain is broken. He even has low T. And we even had the lead paint guy. What I do know is, and so the state went on to say that they didn't test anyone else for lead paint, but they weren't paid to. So they're only going to test the people that they're paid to test, but it is what it is. Um, there were other people in the house, and so the state made that point. Um, the state did kind of make the point that the defense was trying to excuse his behavior, and I agreed with the defense. They never said that it was an excuse for his behavior. They were just trying to give mitigating evidence, and the jury did not believe that any of that mitigated what happened in this crime. And I agree with them. I fully agree with what the jury decided. Um, the state went on that this was not a stress-fueled catastrophe, and that the nose powder was just another lie. And that's how it felt to me. Because I think once again, I think that was I think that was Tanner trying to lessen his own culpa. Like there had to be a reason why you did this. Because I think it was his grandmother that called him a monster. I think or like helped him understand why people in prison were calling him a monster because he didn't fully understand that. And when he said, so Tanner, when his grandmother was like, "What if somebody did that to your son?" Tanner said, "I would kill them." And so, okay, all right. Um, so the defense did not believe that he would pose a risk in prison. But I'm not sure that that risk of future violence, I guess because the only option was life in prison or um, the harshest penalty, because they really focused on their first expert that talked about it's really difficult to predict risk, and the state had the perfect rebuttal after that, but I'll finish this part. The defense went on to say that back in creation, so going back to creation, lying was humans' first reaction to getting caught doing something bad. They defended their use of resources because the state pointed out that the defense was over $500,000. So yeah, $500,000. Um, those that that's what they said. Okay. So they defended their use of resources and felt that the state was misrepresenting the evidence. They went on to explain why they didn't think it was essay, but the jury heard the video, so I don't know. But the defense is just trying. Okay, so the defense is throwing everything at the wall. They're fighting for a man's life, and the jury did not buy any of it, based on they only deliberated for a short period of time, and yeah. So then they went on to special issue number 2. They went into child development, and they went through each stage of development, starting with Tanner's mom drinking during the first 8 weeks. And then she kept saying fetal alcohol syndrome, and it was fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. That kept bothering me. But I think the state didn't object because she was saying it wrong. So the defense kept saying fetal alcohol syndrome, but it was fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Like it wasn't fetal alcohol syndrome. He Their expert said he did meet criteria for fetal alcohol syndrome. And so, but it's really hard. It's really easy to get those two confused, but that bothered me personally. Uh just the experts was over 500,000, not including the attorneys. No, but there was, and the state didn't even argue. So they didn't bring up any substance test or anything because it might have been out of his system by the time he was tested. So, but I don't think he did it because I thought he specifically used things that wouldn't show up on substance tests. Or let's say he was using cannabis or whatever. Like, I don't believe that's what he was doing. And the state's gonna further state that point in their rebuttal. So once they got to have the final say, uh, they talked about attachment, that he lacked safety and security as a child. I literally said blah blah blah, like that. That's what sometimes happens in my brain, as it's just like, oh, this is so listen to. And then they brought up his trauma, and once again, the ridiculous nose powder story. They said there was no planning, no preparation. And so if the jury disagreed with that, so that's where sometimes if the defense fights too hard for something and the jury's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because if the jury finds, yes, there was planning, yes, there was preparation, yes, he was looking for something like this, then like you kind of lose the jury. But I think that the defense was hoping to just convince a few of them. So if they could just convince 3 or more, he would have gotten life in prison instead of the harshest penalty. I think it was 3. I don't know. Remember, I'm not a lawyer. That's my understanding of what was said. And the state, I'm sorry, the defense did clarify, and I appreciated this clarification. None of this had to do with autism. The autism was not the excuse. And then she said attempted essay. And I was like, you're admitting that that's what, but like, because the person that did the opening, or I don't know, or maybe it wasn't so, because they split their closing statements. So there was a guy that did the first part. So there were 2 lawyers. One lawyer did the first half, and then the female lawyer did the second half. And I'm bad with names, so that's why I say male, female. I could not tell you their names if I wanted to. And so she clarified that the diagnoses just help explain how we got here. And I disagree. I don't think it helps explain how we get here. And so they tried to make it sound like Tanner made one very bad decision, and that's why he tried to blame it on Zero. He lacked theory of mind. You saw the remorse. I don't think it was remorse. So the letter where he supposedly apologized to the family, it seemed like to me he was blaming it on FedEx. It didn't seem like remorse to me. And so I was like, it didn't seem like remorse at all. Sorry if that slurp. It didn't seem like remorse. at all. It sounded like, once again, pushing off the blame. I'm not to blame if FedEx just hadn't changed my route. And it was the contractor. Poor FedEx. FedEx was catching so many strays because even I thought it was FedEx, but he worked for a contractor and the contractor made his routes and all those things. Like, so he didn't work directly for FedEx. He worked for a contractor. I like this. Zero remorse, zero empathy, zero accountability. Yes, exactly. I bet the state is wishing they had thought of that. That would have been perfect. The only thing we need to know about Zero is that there was zero remorse, zero empathy, and zero accountability. And that none of that had to do with any of his diagnoses based on their own experts. What happened that day had nothing to do with what. So it's just so. And the reason why I covered this is because I work with adults with autism. I work with individuals with severe mental health diagnoses, including schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, all types of different diagnoses. And so I don't like it when certain diagnoses, because Tanner is not the poster child for what autism looks like. Like, no. Because this went beyond autism, even by the defense's experts, that what he did, that was not autism. Now, maybe some of his behavior in the interrogation room, maybe some of his behavior at other times, but even their speech language pathologist, when she watched what happened during the crime, she was like, I expected to see dysregulation. I expected to see him, and I did not see that, which makes me think you saw planning. You saw there was no executive dysfunction. You didn't see. And then one expert tried, I don't know, like it was, I won't even repeat what some of the experts said, because it was the poor family sitting there listening to all of that. Ugh. All right. And so the defense tried to say, you saw the remorse. Okay. And so she told them to vote their conscience. No. Okay. So then the state comes back and reminded the jury that they also hold justice in their hands. Tanner was not merciful. He was vengeful, and he did not show remorse. That's what the state came back and said. They mentioned the fact, yeah, sure, he's doing fine in jail right now, but he's on trial. Like, is that so okay? And the state went on to say, if he needs a highly structured environment, death row will give him the most secure, the most structure. That will be the place for him. That's what the state said. I'm just telling you what the state said. The state pointed out what I said, that that remorse, that he just made up a whole other story. That with their experts, he talks about his life, his problems. The state brought out this huge Tupperware container full of all the expert reports and all of the experts' notes. I don't know, like there was just this huge Tupperware container. And the state says nowhere in there is there an I'm sorry. Good point. Good point. And the state said that Tanner continued to lie and make up stories even until January 2026. The state called him a true predator and true evil, that he's selfish. The defense objected at different times. I noted some of them. I did not note them all. And that Tanner's main focus during the interrogation was what he wanted. And all right. Talked about all the people that don't use their diagnoses as a crutch. The state talked about his future danger, and that all of their experts said that based on his history, they would not have predicted that he would have done this, because he did not show an inclination toward violence that people were aware of. He did not show something. Now there was, if people knew about the allegations of the teenagers, there might have been some indication of some like sexual stuff, but overall, nobody would think that he had this potential. His cousin, I forgot to mention this part. His cousin said when Tanner was a teenager, that he mentioned wondering what it would be like to unalive someone. That the defense was big mad. The defense did not want that to come out. The defense objected a lot. And he had a very, very strong defense. And so, Dr. Berry, what do you think about the look on his face when the uncle was giving an impact statement? So the other experts mentioned, so he has inappropriate eye contact at times. So most people during that moment, they would not look at the person. So when Ali Abulaban, that was a TikTok person who was very much, I did not meet him. There were other psychologists that met with him, and I believe antisocial. Like he has very, like he wanted to be a gangster. He looked in ways I think were intimidating. I think that look, I don't think he's great with social skills. I don't think it was meant to be like menacing or threatening or anything like that. He was probably just because the guy called his name. And so I think he looked over like, you're talking to me. So I think he looked over at him. And because most people wouldn't have looked. Most people would have just listened. And so, yeah, those are my general thoughts. I don't know that to be true for sure. I'm glad that he gave the so if anybody that did want to make a statement, because he says he's changed, he says that he found God. He said a whole bunch of things. I don't know. That's that'll be up to somebody else. But yeah. So the defense can always object, and the defense does, because it would be ineffective assistance of counsel if the defense sat back and allowed like things that they should have objected to, where any lawyer, any reasonable lawyer would have objected to something. Sometimes that can create problems down the road. And so, and so when the defense objected, I knew that was something they didn't want to say. And 9 times out of 10, the judge allowed the state to continue to say it, which makes me pay attention to it more. When you object, I'm thinking, wait a minute, you don't want that to be said. And sometimes juries can get that too. Did they have the digital info from his phone? So there was no history of any CSAM. So there were no like searches. There was nothing there wasn't, besides pictures of her after, there were her missing pictures, like people searching for her. So he searched the case after, but that was the only thing they found. So there was nothing that you might expect to find. And so that's why the experts did not diagnose him with like a paraphilic disorder. He wasn't diagnosed with that. Okay. All right. Yeah. So both sides are always able to object. Normally it's good etiquette not to, but and once again, when they objected, it made me pay attention to it more. Because almost every single time the judge allowed them to continue to say whatever they were saying. So sometimes they're trying, I'm not a lawyer, but sometimes they're trying to interrupt the flow too, to kind of catch people off their game. They were very cordial to one another. Do you know what I mean? Like there was nothing like, but yeah, it was like, I made note of the things that they objected to. Like, wait a minute, don't call our client a sociopath. And the judge is like, that was a generic thing. That wasn't something that was actually said. But the state went on to say, we know he has the capacity for victimization, propensity for harming others in ways, just because I think I didn't finish my sentence. Oh, something about just because this is the only case of lethality doesn't mean that it goes away. Something to the effect of that. The defense objected when the state talked about his opinions. So the state was kind of opining that he thought Tanner probably fantasized about something like this, but and there was no proof of that. And so the uh, the defense objected to that, and the state was able to continue to go down that train of thought. Counsel's opinion is not relevant, but they gave their opinion, so I don't know, but it was this the judge allowed it, and the state ended with, "Hey, death row would give him the most structure, routine, and sameness." So that's what it was. Let me know if y'all have any final comments, questions. This case was very, very difficult to watch. Please take care of your mental health. I will be talking about youth violence a little bit later today. 6 p.m. I'll be going live talking about a case out of Florida where it was the movie. So it didn't happen inside a movie theater, but it was like out, it was like around a movie theater. That's what Court TV and Law and Crime has called it. Like they used movie theater in their title for the case. The co-defendant testified. There was a lot of drama with that case. But the victim's family has made a what's the word? They have started an organization. And so I will share that here too. The victim in that case, her name was Kayla. And for ending youth violence, they founded Kayla's House. And it's kaylashouse.com with a little like hyphen there. And it's a nonprofit specifically targeting issues in Southwest Florida. That's where this incident took place, and they've partnered with Crime Stoppers to just help make change. And so I'll be talking more about that case a little bit later today. It was, and if you haven't watched it, and if you have time, the co-defendant testified, the defendant testified, and his mama testified. So like those, and there was already a verdict. We will talk about it later today. It was a very, very interesting case. Jay is a lawyer down in Florida, I believe. He covered some things that, like, because I saw one of his videos that talked about some of the courtroom drama and some of the things that didn't come out in court but happened behind the scenes. And so, if you want a lawyer's breakdown, I did see that he covered it. Yes, yes. And so, at 6 p.m. today, I'll be covering that one. I have 2 reports due tomorrow. One is 90% done. The other is like 30%. So I need to get a little bit of paperwork done before I go live again. So going to do that. I appreciate you all. Be kind. Don't do crimes. And I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.